The 9001 Podcast.
Do you really believe your own hype that much? I am the hype!
Hey everyone, welcome to the 9001 Podcast. Today is February 15th, 2015. My name is Wilson, and today I'm joined by Randall.
What's going on, everybody?
And Lane.
Hey everybody.
Alright, let's do this. Rapid fire section of the show. This week I've been playing League of Legends, and last week I was playing ARAM. This week I've been playing bot games. In order to get my jungling routes up to date. Haven't really been playing like competitive Summoner's Rift in a while, and I've been curious about playing the jungle, so yeah.
Yeah, Wilson, spot games. It's about the level of play you're at, so it makes sense.
So manly. Randall?
I didn't play much as far as games on this weekend. I did play a little League of Legends, but I've mostly just been watching streams, mostly being the LCS. If you're into League of Legends, LCS is a great thing to watch. It's like their big competition type thing. So yeah.
It's like sports for games.
I mean, it is sports for games, but yeah, that's pretty much all I've been doing. It's pretty good. I had a good weekend too, so.
Nice. And then I have been playing Destiny mostly, and I took a small break, not really a break, but I mean, I didn't play it as frequently as I had been. I give like a day or two before playing it again, and I've gotten a little bit of spark back. I got 2 of my characters to max level. I just have 1 more to go. Iron Banner's coming up this week, and I'm gonna rock that shit, and yeah, wreck some stuff.
Oh.
You gonna Rexize some stuff?
Totally. Well, speaking of Iron Banner specifically, I have been dedicated enough to grind that stuff to max level every time it comes out, except for the first time, which you guys might not get that, but anybody who plays Destiny on a regular basis, or semi-regular basis, or has played Iron Banner will get that. Iron Banner. And I've done it on my Titan, I've done it on my Warlock, and now I'm gonna do it on my Hunter, so I can have all the class items, and never have to play it ever again, which is probably a lie, but whatever.
Nice. I don't know what that means, but good luck.
You should get an Xbox and then get Destiny, and then you can know all about it.
No for Reno.
Why can't I play with you on my PS4?
Because you suck and you have a PS4. Not really, but yeah.
That's about as much as I've ever understood about why we can't play together anyway.
Yeah, that's actually exactly the reason. It's because we all suck, according to the people who made our consoles.
Yep.
Correct. So, moving on to the Ice Climber topic. Basically, there was this hot story that went out a little while ago
How
about.
hot, Wilson?
It was fiery, smoking hot.
Put it in Celsius for me.
Let me put it like this. Let me say it like this: video game journalists weren't wearing any clothes. Okay. So the original story basically was that there was a rumor of, and actually an online leak of Rayman becoming a DLC character for the new Smash Bros. Smash Bros. 4 basically is what they're calling it. Or Smash U. I don't know, so many different names. But basically, there's like some actual video footage of Rayman, in the game, or being on the select screen, character select screen.
Watching this, and it is very authentic looking.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. The only way I can see somebody faking this is if they like went into the game code.
Right. So essentially what happened is somebody actually created and fabricated this entire leak and then released it to, the deepest, lowest, nastiest parts of the internet. And that's where the game journalists are. They got that and they put it out. So anyway, he created a video to show how he created all this elaborate hoax. And it mostly feels like a long Adobe After Effects tutorial to me. But anyway, he just shows how he uses video editing to actually create this facade environment where it looks like Rayman's getting picked to play and stuff. So there is no Rayman DLC character, and I'm sure we won't be hearing about this for a while, or we won't be hearing about Rayman joining the cast anyway after this, but I don't know, it was just really interesting to see how moved people were by this, because it seems like people were happy that, like, he did something so, like, convincing, and also people were super mad because they wanted to play as Rayman.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm looking at the video right now of the making of the leak, and it has 300,000 views on the first day that it's out, first off. And the second thing is that it actually has less dislikes than I thought it would. It has currently like 12,000 likes to about 2,000 dislikes. And I thought it would have way more dislikes than that.
Oh yeah, me too. Mostly because of the, I don't know, I feel like a lot of people are very dedicated to the game. They'd be pretty salty about, hearing something teased at them.
Yeah. And this is interesting, actually. I'm thinking about this now, and it's mostly interesting because this is believable, because how many times in the past have we seen stuff leaked because it was already on the disc and stuff like that? I think DLC tendencies are starting to precede themselves. It's literally becoming the butt of a joke now.
Yeah, I'm really not a fan of this model that is basically just like to please investors and to, extend profit models for games. I feel like, the DLC model. Like, it's good in some ways, but I think it presents a lot of inherent, like, bad things.
Yeah. That's definitely a topic for its own little section.
Yep.
Right.
To go on forever type thing.
Yeah, and we'll hit some interesting, something that's kind of similar in our 9001 discussion today. Yeah. But moving over to the release of the week, this is just a hot release that not necessarily hot, but a release that we are featuring that we want to talk about for the week, and this one is Evolve, which came out on the PC. So,
and
if you haven't heard
everything
of it,
else.
Oh yeah, and everything else. I was just thinking that PC is what I would get it on if I were to buy it, because Steam.
Yeah, sure.
Anyway, yeah, so it's a multi-platform release. But basically it's I guess what they're calling is asymmetrical multiplayer.
Yeah.
Or where your friends are the boss and you guys are the ones beating up the boss. It's a 5-player game.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So 4 of you play as kind of these, I don't know, kind of sci-fi commandos, and then the other person plays as a big sci-fi monster. And the goal is to kill each other.
And it's obviously player versus player based game. What's really interesting though is the split for kind of win percentages for each side, and it's a very even split, right?
Yeah, as far as I know, it's actually pretty favorable to like not be in anyone's favor.
Yeah, so that's
wow.
like, it's pretty, I don't know, I think that's pretty impressive game balancing, honestly.
I think, and I mean, I haven't really I've had so many opportunities to play the game, and I still haven't, because I'm an idiot. I will get it eventually, and we will get to the reason I didn't get it, and probably a few other people didn't get it in a moment, but I think they have done an excellent job, from what I have
definitely
at balancing out the game. I've watched a lot of streams of it. I'm sure you have watched a little bit of it too, Randall.
Yeah.
And it's actually interesting, because I'm even sitting here in front of my Xbox just yesterday. I have a friend that got it. I'm watching videos he's made of him playing it, and I'm watching these hunters like just destroy this monster in some of his videos, and then in some ones this monster just destroy these hunters, and in other ones I'm watching, these close calls, like one hunter left with almost no health, one monster left with no health, hunters win. It's actually a legitimate feat of multiplayer game design balance, and it kind of may be why there aren't more things in the game, I think, because balancing that sort of stuff is extremely difficult and extremely time consuming, and I would not at all blame them if they took a little bit more time to do it, because basically it's just really difficult.
Yeah. Yep.
Right.
I think it's gonna be something people don't pick up because it's only, I don't know, I guess Evolve does have single player, but people think of it as only having multiplayer.
Yes, definitely. And you know what? I think the Ars Technica review mentioned this a little bit. I didn't get to read through the whole thing, but I think that they mentioned that it has like a distinct lack of worthwhile modes. And I think that's because all of them are some sort of rip of this sort of multiplayer idea.
Yeah, they are.
And
like an examples, they have this thing called Nest, which is like you basically target monster eggs to kill.
Like, it's all cool in theory, and it's all thematic, but variety is something that is could be sorely lacking. And again, I haven't played it, but it seems like they could have missed out on that. Basically, they might have had such a central, strong idea, they might have sort of forgotten about some stuff.
Right. Well, I had a chance to play it at E3 this year, and it was a lot of fun. I got to play as, dang it, Titan Behemoth. I forget the name of this one. But you got the lightning one.
Oh, the lightning one? That's the Kraken.
Is that the Kraken? Yeah. God, that was way out
there.
So I played as
Titan, I believe, or Behemoth. Maybe? No, the Behemoth's the one that's coming out after. Oh god. Okay, I'm lost. Never mind. Continue.
So, sorry, there's so many words floating around to hook you in with games these days. So anyway, I played as the Kraken, and it was super fun. And you know, it's very intense, right? Like, even though you're this huge big monster, like, you are alone. There is no, like, one to depend on besides yourself. Whereas on the other side, there are 4 little, like, annoying but highly capable potentially things, like, trying to, like, hunt you down. And you have to basically, like, build yourself up by eating other animals and, like, get stronger. And, like, when you see, like, either they've set up a trap for you or, like, they're ambushing you and you have to, like, you know, kill them all.
Yeah.
Murder.
And it does get pretty close, but it's also, like, really, really satisfying, like, killing them one at a time or, like, getting, like, them down. And then, like, when it's you versus the last, like, survivor, oh crap, it feels pretty empowering and pretty weird.
Yeah, and that kind of makes me wonder if it's sort of
a one-trick wonder?
Yeah, exactly, because some of the main complaints that I've read, from initial playthroughs and stuff like that are, it got boring for me pretty quick. And I think that's because that adrenaline rush wore off for people and didn't come back after the next match. And that is a totally legitimate concern. But I think there's enough content in the game that you can have a varied experience pretty often. And you know what? And I guess this is just a good moment to toss in the DLC hat. The DLC is only really going to extend that. And the thing that really draws me in about this game, that really interests me, is that it seems almost like a League of Legends style game. It really isn't, but it's that the same sort of, like a metagame. There's a metagame, and I sort of refer to League of Legends as like my core metagame idea because that's the one that I understand the most about. But there's like a metagame behind Evolve, and that you can either go in for the early kills, or you can, just rank yourself up to 3, or the hunters can go for spread out tracking or stick together. There's a metagame behind it, and that's really cool. But DLC, I think that's worth talking about. Has anybody got an opinion they want to throw in?
About the DLC, the whole DLC thing with Evolve?
Yes.
Well, basically, I mean, Evolve has more than $60 worth of DLC not covered by its season pass,
but $120. Jeez.
Yeah. Let's see.
Yeah, you might be right. It might be $60 that's not covered and $120 total.
If you can't, I feel like, Evolve right now is like kind of near an incomplete game as far as available things to do, right? All of your options, like, to play the game.
Uh-huh.
Like, it's a good game, but it's like, the reason I won't get it is because it looks like it can get stagnant by doing the same thing over and over.
Yeah, I think it's a fun thrill ride.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically.
So, like, I would try it or something, but it's not something I would want to pay $60 for in my library. And if you have to have, that much DLC, it makes me think that the game isn't complete and you're selling, the complete parts of your game, and I really dislike that. If you're good, there's a way to do DLC, which I'm already a little on the fence about, because I think a game should come out complete, and if you have to add DLC to it, then it probably wasn't complete type thing. But if you're gonna do it, there's a way to do it, and they're definitely not doing it correctly.
Yeah, I think that this is just an example of kind of publishers seeing how far they can push the envelope when it comes to, really extravagant DLC plans that, aren't even covered by a season pass. The way they justify this is that, these skins, for certain, for certain characters in the game are going to be a certain amount of money, and that is not covered by the season pass because this is all aesthetic, right? Like, you're still going to get like your hard content of, new maps, etc., but you may not get to change the look of your character. So I just think it's interesting, and I don't believe I'll be buying Evolve.
Yeah. I'm on the boat with everyone else, which is I'm waiting for the frickin' Game of the Year edition.
Yeah, I mean, that'll be the point, obviously, where it's more reasonable to buy.
And it's just, I don't know. Wonder if they'll even do that, considering how much DLC is. You gotta imagine there's gonna be things that there's simply going to be so much DLC for this game that I can't imagine them putting it all into the Game of the Year or the Definitive Edition. I mean, maybe the Definitive Edition, but that thing is literally gonna come out for a full $60 price tag again. That's what's gonna happen. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is definitely a huge freaking waste of everyone's time. Yeah. We could all be playing this freaking amazing game
which I really genuinely do want to play, but it's so time and not even time, just cost prohibitive. It's literally cost prohibitive to play your game to the fullest. That's retarded. I hate saying that, but that it's mind-numbingly stupid. It's a cash grab, and that sucks.
Well, I mean,
really
here's the thing for me. Let's say they do have a good product, right? Even at base level. When I see off the bat that they have that kind of DLC coming at me, it makes me think that the devs don't care about their buyers, and I don't want to support.
Well, it's probably a publisher that doesn't
publisher.
care.
But point.
But I mean there are probably some devs agreed to it though.
Right. So there's a point where
they've already kind of sold their soul, in my opinion. So I don't want anything.
Paid.
I don't want anything to deal with that then, though. That's just me personally. Like I want devs that they'll push their envelope and work with the publisher to make a game that is friendly to their users, or cash friendly to their users, not something that's a grab. And that just upsets me personally.
Well, let's talk about this for a second though, because I think that the main problem here is that this is slightly unprecedented. But if you look at a game like Dota 2 or League of Legends, buying all the cosmetic content in those games, holy shit!
And this is something else that's really important. I think the Dota 2 and League of Legends and many other games these days, their sort of model of branching content, stuff that comes out over time, is really engaging. I think that's
it's
awesome,
yeah.
and I love that. And I'm not sure whether Turtle Rock was going for that or not. I don't understand if they were trying to do the whole content over time thing, or if they were trying to...
Well, it's a shitty mix.
Yeah, it's
because you pay $60 to get in the front door, and then you get, slapped in the mouth.
Yeah, it's
and you're asked to not do anything.
Your second beer
until you pay some more money.
$20.
Yep. I mean, yeah, you can play the game, but, I don't know. I feel like if you're going to be, waving skins in front of my face and also make me pay $60 to get in the front door, then I don't know. Just from the onset, it seems like it's very kind of calculated to the point that
it
I don't know. It's just too transparent. I can't deal with it.
It's certainly it's worrying.
Yeah.
And
so
yeah. That's the bottom line. It's just, let's hope it doesn't stay like this, and I'm hoping Evolve sales suffer just enough to
to dissuade people from doing that kind of thing, honestly.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah, well, moving on to other interesting news, our bulletin board this week, we've got a couple of interesting items. The first is the Majora's Mask, a 3D remake for the 3DS came out, or I guess it's now on the new 3DS, right? The new 3DS.
The new 3DS.
And we're not talking about League of Legends here, the new 3DS.
New 3DS.
So basically, the whole reason I wanted to talk about this today is because two major retailers have had to cancel, people had to cancel purchases of this item because they just simply didn't have enough.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's pretty crazy. Yeah. It makes me but the thing is did they have orders canceled on them or something? I mean, that just seems pretty ridiculous to me that they have to cancel pre-orders.
Yeah, there's two things that I think are worth mentioning here. One, we've already seen Nintendo basically manufacturing demand over their frickin' amiibos. Kind of makes you wonder if they're doing that here. I wouldn't imagine they would. That's frickin' absurd. But if Nintendo really felt the need to manufacture the demand for some of their amiibos, I wouldn't be 100% surprised if they were doing this. The other thing is that it's funny that pre-orders are now running out when pre-orders were originally made to make it to where you couldn't... Pre-orders came around when you couldn't be
assured... Therefore, a guarantee.
Yeah, a pre-order was a guarantee, and still is, as far as I know, a guarantee that you're going to get a game on launch day. That's what it's for. And the big argument these days is, well, that's never an issue anymore. So many people overship that you don't even need to pre-order, so stop pre-ordering because it's a bad idea, blah, 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 blah. But, again, funny, ironic, terribleness that is this weird happening.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah, it's terrible. And so the two retailers I was referring to were Best Buy and Target, and I was actually personally affected by this because a friend of mine was super pumped about getting the the console, and she was looking all over for it, and she's like, "Oh, I finally found it at Target." And she shot me the link. She's like, "Hey, I just bought one." I was like, "Oh God, here we go." $230, or whatever, down the drain. Just a classic example of my financing skills. And I didn't really think much of it afterwards. I got my huge high of irresponsibility. But then an hour later, she emailed me. She's like, "Hey, did you get an email?" I was like, "No," but I also did some weird stuff. I put in the wrong email for my Target account by accident. So I think what happened was my emails were going to no one for a second from them
already.
But anyway, she got her order canceled. I was like, "What?" And I was like, I looked on my status and I had been canceled as well. I was like, wow. So apparently, and this is a quote from Target, "Unfortunately, due to incredibly high demand, we are unable to fulfill the item below from your order."
It seems like they'd have an automatic lock off for the amount of people that could do it. I don't know. I don't know how they fucked up, but they fucked up.
You done did fucked up.
That's all that happened.
I just think it sucks that it's turned into this whole thing where more people are buying stuff to just sell it again than they are to buy it, for themselves.
That's what happens when you make things that are exclusive, though, right? Because they become a market. If anything that's exclusive can ultimately end up being sold for a higher profit, right? Yeah. It just makes sense because people want it and they can't get it. So
exactly, which is the whole issue that happened with the discontinued amiibos. Literally manufactured demand.
I mean,
no, it's true.
I mean, people I just think wait for those kind of things. Honestly, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I think having limited edition stuff's cool. I just think that if really well-respected companies should not be able to basically have a firm transaction and then tell people, "Oh no," because this creates a weird kind of vortex for their sales. It's a guarantee they're going to sell every single item that they have or what have you. And you know what? If I'm on Target, I'll probably spend $15 later with that gift card. But you know what? I'm also going to buy a game that's $35. And instead, Target has just basically made $25 out of nowhere because in sales at least, because they basically lied to me about the availability of a system, right? They're creating all these sales with all these gift cards they're going to give out in compensation.
Yeah. Yep.
So it's a little weird, but I feel like it's I think that's something that they could mitigate. Although Target has had some serious trouble in terms of online or infrastructure for their systems and their networks. So
Yep.
Given the whole leaking of people's personal information with credit card companies, so maybe not. But anyway, I just wanted to rant about that. Moving on to other types of news here. Apple, and this is a story Randall was telling me about. So Apple's doing a pretty cool thing by featuring a Pay Once apps section on the App Store front page.
I was really surprised about this from Apple's part, honestly. It's not something you really gain much from, right? Because obviously your kind of pay-to-win apps generate more revenue because people want to win, right? And if you're going to win, you got to spend more money than the guy on the left and the guy on the right. So, they're ultimately just going to make more money, but the Pay Once apps, I mean, it's kind of one and done. They're not as, they're not meant to generate all the revenue in the world like Clash of Titans, or whatever the fuck that game is that everyone plays. Clash of Clans, yeah.
Clan Clashers.
Yeah, sure, Clan Clashers as far as I'm concerned.
But
thank you, Randall.
But I thought this was an interesting choice, though. I don't really see much of a gain from promoting it. I just think it's a nice thing that they did for their consumers.
It literally seems like a gameless, almost thankless thing, but it's, I don't know, it's effective. And I want to talk about something, and Wilson, you might actually know the answer to this. I was always wondering if I ever got to assist in making a game for the App Store or something like that, and we wanted to have a free version of it, but in the app we wanted to have a menu somewhere or an option that said upgrade to the paid version, that doesn't have apps or it doesn't have ads on it or whatever,
right.
Like that. Would that flag it as that this app has in-app purchases, even though it's literally just an upgrade and not a pay-to-win sort of system?
I mean, I think it's a bit of a technicality, but I think the best bet would be having basically a link that goes to downloading the new.
Okay, yeah.
Basically an App Store link, because I think what can happen is there's still a transaction that can take place in the game that will unlock those free features, but it's still like you're paying for it.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. It's a bit of a confusing one. I mean, I think you still see light versions of apps still out there on the store.
Yeah.
It's not as popular as it used to be, just because most people are like, well, let's just do straight up in-app purchases all the time.
Yep.
But I think the best bet, and you may be able to do more homework and find out a better answer, but I think the best bet, based on my knowledge, would be to have like a link to the new app, and people would have to kind of suck it up and delete the old free app. Now, if you wanted to have like a lot of, maybe like in the free version you can do some cool stuff and you want to save that progress, then you may have to, look into the details of if you can have like an upgrade take place without considering it an in-app purchase. Yeah. So that way people can keep, it's a really fun free game, but they wanted to go the extra mile. They wanted to keep their main character. Mm-hmm. Well, they should have a way to do that for sure. So
yeah, very interesting, sort of slippery, but not really slippery slope. Anyway,
right.
just left field question.
No doubt. And hopefully, I mean, if anyone listening has a better idea, feel free to let us know. It would be helpful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think that's cool, and I think that it also is a message from Apple to developers personally. if it really is as prominent as we think it is, but this is a pay once and play category page. Yeah, so it's on the front page in the little slider at the top, and you can click on it and see all these pay once and play. I think, it's important. Like, Apple's trying to stress to developers that they want to also see games that are, a fixed price. Obviously, developers will have their own thoughts about this, right? Some companies don't give a shit. They're going to say, we want to rip off whatever game did really well last quarter. And it's such a fucking backwards way of thinking, but that's how it can work sometimes. That's just how, people that are producers sometimes will think. That you have to emulate success. And that's true sometimes, but I think in the mobile market, it's already so flooded that the chances of that happening are just as low as creating that hit game in the first place. So why not make something, new and more fun and interesting?
I think it's sad that, the gaming industry has become so saturated that for some people making games isn't, I mean, this is going to be true for anything, but it's becoming more relevant now. It's not about having a good game anymore. It's about having a game that'll sell for lots of money, right? Or make lots of revenue.
At least in some cases. And, that's almost like a AAA sort of trend. Basically, these days, games have to be 100% successful. And otherwise, they're not viable.
Oh, no.
That's why, major companies make, all the same games and there's so many sequels and stuff. Because they're just so safe.
I mean, that's entertainment right now. I mean, you look at television, right? Like primetime. A show, if it doesn't have a successful pilot, it'll get pulled because there's another show ready to fucking go. This is something that's a problem right now, in at least kind of, the culture of television, games, movies here in the United States, is that shows and games aren't given the time of day to really come into their own.
Yeah, but in the same way, I think we're getting at least a little bit of expansion past what we were. Because I think and this is all our opinion, obviously, but the last 5+ years have all just been rehashing the same crap over and over, and that's true for a lot of mediums, like you said, but I've seen some interesting, little deviations here and there, in the last few years, so I think people are starting to sort of get an idea. I think, and this is totally random, but I have one specific thing. On TV specifically, there was this mini show on primetime television not very long ago. I think it just ended recently, called Gallivant. If either of y'all have any idea what it is?
Nope. Never heard of it.
I'm pretty uncultured.
This is what the show is. It is a show set in medieval times about this hero who is totally inept at everything about being a hero, and it's a musical. And it is one of the weirdest and funniest shows I've ever seen. And it lasted, I think, 8 episodes, maybe a few less, maybe a few more. And I saw 2 episodes of it, and they were both excellent. And I cannot wait for it to be put on Netflix or something like that, because it was funny as hell and completely weird and random. So I think we're getting a little bit here and there. I mean, Evolve's a semi-new concept. It's not really a new concept in and of itself, but it hasn't been something that's been done super effectively in that specific capacity. Natural selection exists, but it doesn't exist like this. It's not like an asymmetrical team versus team.
Yeah.
It's monster versus hunters. It's unique. It is. And I think maybe we're getting out of it a little bit. Hopefully.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, and I mean, this is all kind of relative, right? We're talking about what's in the mainstream public eye.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, of course.
The independent scene is alive and well, and it's awesome. But I think that, whenever you get to enjoy stuff like that, you want to share it with people. You want other people to be aware of just how good, like, a medium can be, right? Like, you want to see video games, like, do things only video games can do. You want to see television shows, like, totally surprise you. So, I think that as people become just better consumers, they're going to open up to these niche kind of areas, right? Everyone has, like, something they know more about than someone else.
Oh, yeah.
So, I think that it really just is a matter of time before companies wake up to this as well and find out the ways to serve niche audiences in a way that makes everybody happy.
Yeah.
So, moving over to the 9001 discussion. This is an area of the show where we really just go overboard with the topic. And today's is an interesting one and kind of relevant to some of the stuff we've been talking about. And this is a discussion that I saw on the internet recently, and I wanted to see what you all thought about it. Is pledging as bad as pre-ordering in terms of Kickstarter? So is Kickstarter any better or worse than pre-ordering, and how does this work in terms of independent game development?
Ooh, you want to kick us off, Wilson?
Right. So, I mean, like, if you just look at kind of like some of, I guess, maybe the talk on the internet lately is like, and maybe in general sentiment, that pre-orders have been getting a pretty bad rap lately, right? Pre-orders have been shit on. People are like, don't pre-order games. You hear that thing. We even talked about that in the show recently, saying that, consider not pre-ordering because it's a bit hard on everyone whenever companies completely rely on pre-orders for, people's livelihoods as game developers or what have you. It's kind of a weird thing. But there's also this whole trend of Kickstarter being really popular, and it's kind of, I don't know if they've totally jumped it, but, Kickstarter has been a very successful model for a lot of people to get their independent games out.
Insanely.
Yeah. So basically, like, and it's interesting because they're similar, right? When you pledge on Kickstarter, you're like, I'm going to say I want to spend $5 to, to provide support for this game because I want to play it someday or I want to see people play it someday. So it's interesting. And I think that, personally, I think that Kickstarter is a better model.
Yeah.
But it doesn't apply to the AAA space. So, thinking about it in terms of independent game development, I don't know. I like Kickstarter.
So,
go ahead, Randall.
I just have like a running thought right now, and I just like want to say like what I think the definitive difference between Kickstarter and pre-ordering is. Pre-ordering, the game has already been created. Likely since there is a pre-order, the game doesn't need any help because, they have a publishing company intelligent enough to create that system that, lulls people into buying the game, right? I mean, pre-order system, like, encourages people to get the game and get it early because they don't want to miss out on anything that they may possibly miss out by not pre-ordering the game, right? Something that you won't see, non-developed, game studios do. So, I think pre-order, like, first off, is something that comes from a company that's established. So it's not something that a company needs, right? It's not helping a company out any. Pre-order, on the other hand, is something that, pushes a game through a lot of the times. So even if, there's maybe not a lot to be gained from Kickstarter for the person, on that side of it, on the Kickstarting side of it, they are helping push that game through and to be developed. And I think that's like the definitive difference is that pre-ordering is basically just buying the game early, obviously, which is what it is. But Kickstarter is actually pushing a game through when it might not do it at all. So there's like meaning to Kickstarter, and there's not anything to pre-ordering, is what I'm saying, basically.
Definitely a fair point. And I think the other important thing that we have to discuss is Kickstarter's falling through and Kickstarter's not being fulfilled, because that is something that has been it hasn't happened too much. I'm sure there are some famous examples out there. Yeah. I'm sure there are.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
And people, I mean, the other thing to consider, so when a Kickstarter project doesn't meet its funding goal, essentially what happens is all the money that's been donated, well, first of all, it gets put into a huge pile. Kickstarter takes however much they want from it. I think it's 10 or 15%. and then the rest goes straight to the person who started the Kickstarter in the first place, regardless of whether they hit that goal.
Yay.
And then they're not actually obligated to create that item.
Nope.
Now, if they're a good person, they're going to keep doing what they love and eventually, be able to create that item or something else, for people to enjoy.
Yeah.
So, it's interesting, right? Like when a Kickstarter doesn't get fulfilled, but I think what's important here is that like you as a consumer are getting to decide the development here directly, right? You basically taking a risk, one that you are thinking about in mind, like, do I think this game is going to make it, or do I really want to see this game happen? And like, if you think that you want either of those things, then you're going to spend some money.
Yeah, and there's some insanely successful Kickstarters out there just for games specifically. I think am I correct in saying that the most successful one to date is probably Star Citizen?
Yeah, I mean, look at Star Citizen.
Oh.
It's probably not going to come out until 2017.
It might never
What
come
the
out.
hell?
That game,
Yeah.
I don't know what to think about that game, and I think I personally love that this game, which is such an insanely risky venture, is basically the poster child right now, because if it screws up, it's over. You aren't going to be able to get a Kickstarter game anymore, because people are going to be like, dude, do you remember that time that game got $15 million and then did nothing with it? Yeah. So,
Right.
Screw up.
That's the thing, right? Like, whenever you want to, like, in such a new platform, I think that, the projects that get really funded and a lot of hype really have a little extra, weight on their shoulders to deliver a product that meets expectations, which is tough. Like, that's hard to do, especially when people's expectations tend to be a lot higher than reality. So, yeah, I mean, if several games kind of happen, back to back that don't meet the expectations of Kickstarter backers, it's going to be negative for the platform. But I think right now it's still in a good spot, right?
How
a
about,
lot of games get funded.
yeah, Kickstarter is definitely a good spot. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. But, I just had a thought, because I remember and I think this is something we should talk about real quick. What have y'all funded on Kickstarter?
So I've actually only funded a couple of projects because I tend to be more of a lurker on Kickstarter, but I funded That Dragon Cancer, which is, it's a pretty intense narrative game. If you want to look at more information, you should definitely check it out. And the other one I've funded is Inner Space. And Inner Space.
Inner Space.
And this is a game made by some devs, actually some old devs from UTD. And they are currently in the throes of development. It's an interesting exploration game. So
They passed it by 3K.
yeah.
Randall, have you done anything?
Yeah, I kickstarted this new Shadowrun coming out.
Oh, the new Shadowrun? That's cool. Anything
Yeah.
else?
Nope, I don't think so. That was the first thing I'd ever done, actually.
And I've only done one as well. I backed Hyperlight Drifter.
Oh yeah.
Oh, nice.
The only thing I've backed, and I'm super excited for it. So, I hope that comes out sometime soon.
Someday.
Another thing about Kickstarter, it's before people have like publishers and stuff, so they usually have like, they usually have ideas and designs that aren't necessarily with the game meta at the current time, which makes them interesting. That's
Definitely
another
true.
thing I do like about them.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and the other thing that I wanted to mention was, what about games that are made by already... I just think we should discuss games that are put on Kickstarter by...
Like, it's a Zach Braff
developers.
Kickstarter?
Yeah, like developers that are already well-seated in the industry. Like, the main one is Mighty Number 9 for me, and there are a lot of others, but I think Mighty Number 9 is a really good example.
I don't know. I think that's a little... So, I don't know. Sometimes, like, I feel like most of those people... Okay, the thing... Kickstarter's made for people who, like, have no way to get that money, I think, mostly, right?
Yeah.
Like, someone like Zach Braff could, like... I'm not, like, a master at finances or anything, but, I mean, he could get a business loan. I'm sure. Like, there's no way he couldn't. You know what I mean? I can't believe he's so irresponsible that his credit would suck, right? And he's just well known enough that if he talked to a bank and, he gave a reasonable idea, they would probably give him the money.
Well, yeah, and I guess grounding it back into video games, I mean, like, even, Mighty Number 9, I think that
That is pretty rock solid there. That's probably as rock solid as a Kickstarter gets, I think.
Right, like they got a $3 million backing,
Yes.
$3,800,000 out of 900,000. Now, I'm not really sure.
The thought of a new Mega Man literally just makes people wet.
Right, like I think that's the key here is that this is a game that really means a lot more than just, these developers getting to make a game again. Even though, God, I'm losing his name. The game designer who's famous for Mega Man now.
Jeez. Thanks, I lost it too.
Yeah, well, anyway, he's always been, Keiji Inafune?
Yeah, that's it.
Inafune. So I've always heard my Capcom fan friends saying, how much he's wanted to, go back and revisit Mega Man.
Yes.
And I think that's, a very interesting example, but I've got another example maybe that could kind of be something that would be worth trying to figure out too is that it's this game called The Flame in the Flood.
Okay.
This is a game by the Molasses Flood. They're a newly formed company, and they got $250,000 out of the $150,000 goal they wanted. And about this project is from the art director of BioShock and a team of veterans of the BioShock, Halo, Guitar Hero, and Rock Band series comes The Flame in the Flood. So these are people who have had some pretty senior positions in the game development industry.
Did you say Halo? Because I didn't hear you say Halo.
I said Halo.
You did Halo? Okay. Is this... I'm trying to see anything I can about this. What is this?
Basically, the way I think about it, and just because it's the way everybody thinks about games anymore, is you add Gone Home to another game, and then you get the game that you're thinking about. So this game is Gone Home plus Don't Starve, okay?
Gone Starve or Don't
Gone Starve.
So anyway, if you do what the secret for describing any future indie game, just start with Gone Home and then add a game, and you'll be just fine.
Stupidest yet probably most true thing I've ever seen. Oh my gosh.
So, anyway, I think this is an interesting example too, right? They're leveraging these other game names and these other companies that they are no longer even working for.
You worked on BioShock? Give me everything.
Right. Well, they got laid off probably, or were terrible people, but I'm pretty sure they just mostly got laid off.
Yeah.
So, in this case, it's also kind of interesting. I think that typically, in the game sphere, I think it's usually pretty okay because I think it's, games are such a risky venture. People need as much help as they can get financially. You got a family, you've got a crazy Magic the Gathering addiction. People have reasons to pay for things.
Those are very comparable.
Well, people decide how to live their lives. That's all I'm saying.
Wilson. Yeah, you do. You fucking idiot. God damn it.
All right. Well, I guess I think that we've had a lot of good thoughts here, but I think kind of to kind of start closing in on this. I think that pre-orders are good on paper. I think they make a lot of sense, right?
They do. It's easy for people, right? That's a big thing. Is that they can just get it done with, have it pre-download a lot of that shit.
Right. It's you're paying money in advance, right? You could just spend the $50 later, and I think it's good to have that guarantee. I think pre-orders are here to stay, but I think with Kickstarter though, that's shaking up how people are perceiving how to fund creative ventures in general.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think that pre-orders are eventually going to get they're going to get kind of a makeover, I think. At least, well, I don't really know if pre-orders really even apply to indie that much.
Yeah. Here's hoping something changes, and it might. Kickstarter came around. Once upon a time, Kickstarter didn't even exist, if you can imagine it. And so there's plenty of room for change. Somebody's going to think of the next big thing, and then maybe we won't be pre-ordering stuff anymore. Who knows?
Yep, that's right.
All right. So, and we may have another 9001 about DLC and maybe kind of get more into the pre-order thing. I know this whole discussion kind of talked to the merits of Kickstarter, and I think that's important.
Yeah. That shows though that it's more appealing to talk about than pre-ordering though.
That's true. So, anyway, I think that does wrap up the 9001. Before we close out the show, I just wanted to read a paragraph from a great customer review of the new Majora's Mask console I was talking about. This is on Amazon. It's a highly rated customer review on Amazon. And the title of this goes, A Study on the Scalper, What It Is and How to Combat These Vile Creatures. Here we can see the infamous scalper in its native habitat. It is quite a horrid creature. It is quite similar to that of the Homo sapiens. That is because this thing you see before you is in fact an evolution, or de-evolution in this case. These beasts were in fact human at a time, but that time is long gone. Now all that is left is an empty shell with only greed filling its will to live on. Anyway, let's get on to further studying this horrendous creature. And it goes on for another 5 or 6 paragraphs of equal or greater length. And this is from Charaz Nabal on Amazon, probably just a fake name, but anyway, I just think it's interesting. 1,751 people out of 1,997 found that review helpful. So this whole culture of like shitty, like funny Amazon reviews are great. But basically what I really wanted to leave you guys with is that I'm going to be searching endlessly for this console, at least in not having to pay $400 for it. So,
Good luck with that.
yeah, if you guys know any Walmarts within, like a 500 or 600 mile radius of Texas for me to go to,
500 or 600. Really?
or Targets preferably, yeah.
You could really be messing yourself up there, buddy.
All right.
Anyway, all right. At this point, we are going to close out the show. Thanks for tuning in this week. Please feel free to shoot us any questions or comments at 9001podcast@gmail.com. You can find the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, and also on our website, 9001rad.io.
The red.
Until next time, this has been the 9001 podcast.
Later.
See ya.
All right. Ready?
No place I'd rather be.
So anyway, if you do want the secret for describing any future indie game, just start with Gone Home and then add a game, and you'll be just fine.
Stupidest yet probably most true thing I've ever seen. Oh my gosh.
So,